Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvisesha Sunyavari Paschatya Desa Tarane Vanchakalpa Trubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnave Vyo Namaha Namo Mahabharanaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namani Kora Tvishe Namaha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate. Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute. So, welcome. I'm going to continue reading from a very wonderful book, which is very educational. Srila Prabhupada and his daughters, called Bond of Love. Available on Amazon, anywhere in the world. It's just Prabhupada's spiritual daughters and remembering their time with Prabhupada. Sometimes there was a lot of time, a lot of intense, sometimes very short, but always their memory is intense love from Prabhupada, complete caring for them. I like to read this, and I think everybody should read it because there are a lot of misconceptions that Srila Prabhupada was somehow misogynist or something. Jagadatri Devidasi. Was always interested in spiritual things. Her first husband's sister, Joni, had met Srila Prabhupada in New York and told him about Krishna. After years later, she saw the devotees on her Harinam in Seattle, and she walked up to them. She bought some books, and they were invited her to the Sunday feast. She attended and never left. The first time I met Srila Prabhupada, I believe it was in December of 1973 in Los Angeles. In those days, the women and men stood opposite each other in the temple room. Later on, with the influence of Tamal Krishna, I guess, and Radha Damodar, the women had to stay in the back. But in those days, we were side by side with the men. So I would get up early, like 3 in the morning, and sit down to claim the spot so I could get right next to Srila Prabhupada's Vyasa. You had to get dibs on spaces so you could be close to him. So I got to sit next to Srila Prabhupada and to see him as he gave classes. There were so many wonderful things about Srila Prabhupada. The way he played cartel struck me. He was so grateful with his hands, and his thumbs would go up to let the cartels ring a little bit more. I was just fascinated by that. But I had no real personal interaction with him because I was just one of the little brahmacharinis amongst a forest of sannyasis. I received my Brahmin initiation in LA. That was my first opportunity to meet Srila Prabhupada in person. I had heard he liked gardenias, I scraped some money together to buy a box of beautiful gardenias that were uh, beautifully wrapped in cellophane. I went up to the stairs and paid my obeisances to receive my Brahmin initiation. Prabhupada was lounging on the floor on his pillows in front of his desk, and he patted the space with his right hand to sit right of him. He had his knee up. I offered him the flowers that were all wrapped up uh, so he couldn't smell them. He tried to open one of them for a few seconds, got disgusted, and put them down. He repeated the Gayatri mantra, and then he showed me the how to count on the fingers and to chant the Gayatri mantra. Of course, I couldn't get it. He had to go over it and over it. And by then, of course, he knows my heart anyway, but it just kind of verified when he intensely knew that I'm just a real dunce. However, because he wants to serve his spiritual master, he proceeded to allow me to be a Brahmana by initiation from him. I always had hid in corners, and when Srila Prabhupada would pass with all the men, I would say, Jai Prabhupada. He would look at me kind and dryly and say, Jai. But he was so patient. He tolerated me. That happened several times throughout the years. I remember one time Hansa Duda got really mad at me for doing that and glared at me in a manner that looked like, what are you doing here as a woman? I just said to him, he's my guru too. In 1973, I wrote Prabhupada a letter. When everybody was flat out prone on the floor, offering humble obeisances, I ran over to Prabhupada because nobody could stop me because they were all down on the floor, and handed him a letter. I only gave him 3 or 4 letters, and every time I delivered any letter like this, he knew it was like a conspiracy between him and me. He would grab the letter and stick it in his pocket and pretend he never got it. And then I'd run down to my spot and get down on the floor, and nobody ever knew uh, until his secretary had to answer the letter. I had a platinum, sapphire, and diamond ring. I gave it to my son, Raghunath, with a little note rolled out inside of it so that Raghunath could go and give it to Srila Prabhupada, go up to meet Srila Prabhupada. So I presented the ring via my son. I was not present. He gave the ring to Srila Prabhupada, and then he wrote a letter. I received your gift of one. He spelled it one, and then with parentheses, I ring. Just now, I am wearing it on behalf of my Srila Gurudev, although I am not worthy. And he said, I have met your son. His lovely features are very appealing, and he appears to be very nice brahmachari. Always go on being an example of Krishna consciousness, and your motherhood will be perfected. There was some pictures of Srila Prabhupada wearing the ring. He wore it on the pinky of his left hand, and I had one of these pictures. So he did wear it for some days. In Mayapur, during the spring of 1977, I utilized my son once again, and I gave him a note to give to Srila Prabhupada. They wanted to give me away Dallas had closed. Devotees were traded like baseball cards in those days, and I was supposed to be traded to Tamal Krishna and Adi Keshava to serve in New York. I really didn't want to go there. I told Prabhupada I did not want to go to New York. I wanted to collect for the Vrindavan Gurukul, which would mean Vrindavan would be in my home temple. Prabhupada was ill, and it was the one letter he didn't answer in written form. But he told Tamal Krishna to tell me I could go to Vrindavan. I was in Vrindavan in October of 1977 when Srila Prabhupada was very ill, but I did not get any association with him. My son, Raghu, was in the room when Prabhupada left this world. Jagadatri Devidasi. Jagadatri attended an all-girls Catholic school in Edinburgh, Scotland. When she was 13, a friend suggested that they go to get some people who had opened up a center, which was a 5 minutes walk from the school. Her friend had wanted to go to the newly opened Guru Maharajji Center on one side of the street, but by mistake, they went to the Hare Krishna temple, which was directly opposite. Between the ages of 13 and 16, I visited the temple regularly and was very attracted by the purity of the philosophy and the dedication of the devotees. Unfortunately, the temple would sometimes close down due to lack of devotees, but I took it as Krishna's plan that maybe I should try to enjoy life for a while. Krishna was always kind, and another group of devotees from London would come to Sweden and encourage me in my devotional life. When I turned 16 and we were allowed to leave school, the temple decided again to close down. I decided to leave home and move to the Bhaktivedanta Manor to be able to continue with my spiritual life. I left Edinburgh with a couple of devotees who had volunteered to give me a lift. Under the care of Sri Radha Gokulananda at Bhaktivedanta Manor, I felt happy and eager to serve in whatever way my authorities felt I felt happy. Attending the morning program, hearing, chanting, cleaning, serving prasadam, going out on Sankirtan, and associating with the like-minded devotees convinced me that by following Srila Prabhupada's instructions, I could also be a devotee of the Lord. 1975, Prabhupada came to visit, and a few of us ladies were asked if we wanted to take initiation, which of course we did. We were so excited and happy that Srila Prabhupada was going to be here in Bhaktivedanta Manor and give us initiation in person. The day before our initiation ceremony, Prabhupada's servant asked us to give him our japa beads for Srila Prabhupada to chant. Japa beads were difficult to get in those days. We had been given what we thought were wonderful, colorful wooden beads from the bead shop in London. Mine were purple, which I thought were great. Holding my beads out of my bead bag to give to Srila Prabhupada's servant, I could see a look of disappointment on his face, and immediately he felt scared. He wouldn't take my beads, and I said, I can't give these to Srila Prabhupada. And then he walked away. We didn't know what to do and wondered if we would be initiated the next day. Had we committed some offense chanting on these beads, we had a sleepless night, and in the morning we still weren't sure if we would be receiving initiation. We decided to get ready for the ceremony and hope that Srila Prabhupada would be merciful to us. Cushions were placed on the floor and around Srila Prabhupada's Vyasasan. For some men sat down, but we were still waiting in great anxiety. Eventually, Srila Prabhupada's servant looked over and pointed to the cushions, and we eagerly sat down. Srila Prabhupada arrived shortly after and sat down on the Vyasasan. After a short talk, we were called up to receive our names. Srila Prabhupada, kindness and mercy on a 16-year-old unqualified girl has never been forgotten, and the great fortune to have been handed my new initiation beads from the hand of Srila Prabhupada. I'm sure when I'm still here, I am still here. That is why I'm still here trying to be a devotee. Okay, one more. Jugger Janani Devi Dasi. The day after I graduated from high school, Jugger Janani boyfriend took her to the Northern California mountains where they lived for 3 years. Immediately, she and her boyfriend, Larry, stopped taking intoxicants and eating meat, fish, and eggs. Seeking purity, they lived a simple lifestyle of gardening and trying to find themselves. Larry's mother sent us a Back to Godhead magazine that she had got at the Kmart in Berkeley. We were amazed that there were people who believed the same thing as we believed. Larry sent for Bhagavad Gita, and I sent for the cookbooks An Easy Journey to Other Planets, which I loved. From that book, I felt a connection with and trust in Srila Prabhupada. We left the mountains the day of my 21st birthday, May 26, 1976, and went to Denver, Colorado. A week later, we moved into the Denver temple. We both became airport Sankirtan devotees, and Larry decided that we shouldn't have any connection for 6 months because we had no training. I was a young girl in a new city, a new state, with a new lifestyle, a new group of people, and for the first 2 weeks, I was struggling. Once, Kurushestra, the temple president for Denver, said to Larry, you should spend time with your girlfriend, read with her, and eat a meal with her. I joined the temple with my girlfriend, and since I would associate with her, I wouldn't associate with her, she left Krishna consciousness. Out of nowhere, I said, oh, I'm not going anywhere. Then I thought, oh my God, where did that statement come from? After that, one evening, I got emotional with Larry, who later became Lokananda. Why are you doing this to me? Why can't you help me? I'm struggling. Then I went in the arti, chanted and prayed to the deities, and in that half hour, my anxiety, fear, and distress left. I felt peaceful, protected, and comfortable. I told Larry, I understand what you're doing and why you're doing it, and I'm going to be okay. that was my first tangible experience with Krishna and Prabhupada. During the Sankirtan at the airport, I'd constantly daydream about Srila Prabhupada arriving and coming to the temple. I'd imagine seeing my spiritual master, but when Srila Prabhupada physically left the planet in 1977, I still hadn't seen him. Sometime later, though, Prabhupada allowed me to dream about him so vividly that I felt on the floor and wept. The dream was so real, I knew Srila Prabhupada was fulfilling my deep desire. When I look back at my little life before and after becoming a devotee, I feel that Srila Prabhupada was always taking care of me and bringing me to him. As a young girl, I didn't have a firm faith or religion, yet I knew God existed, and I always felt protected in amazing situations, although I didn't know by whom or how. Srila Prabhupada has helped me in so many areas of my life. He gave me my husband, Naikatma Prabhu, who has guided me, kept me on track, and given me a wonderful daughter, Ramuna, who is my best friend. I'm grateful for all of the other devotees Srila Prabhupada gave us to associate with and help us, and I hope I can be helpful to them. I'm happy to be involved in the family business of preaching and giving Krishna everywhere we go. I can't imagine my life without feeling Srila Prabhupada's presence at every moment. I'm so grateful to him and pray every day that I will eternally be in his service. Thank you very much. Sorry for my fumbling because the light is really bad here and I can't see the book. Okay. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. And remember this book, highly recommended for everybody, not just Madhajis, but for everybody to understand Srila Prabhupada's personality, his actual, what he actually did. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chaksuramilitanyena Tasmai Shri